Not knowing what could have been or what changed in a game is a weird concept. When it's a game like Super Mario Galaxy, that feeling is only amplified. I think this is partially because the game feels like you're exploring the great vastness of space the entire game. It's uncharted territory, the unknown. That's what made this game so compelling, especially for the nostalgic and existential suckers like myself. I will always relish in it. But what's equally as satisfying as exploring the unknown is uncovering things that were lost over time. Aspects of video games that meant a lot to someone at some point, but ultimately didn't make the cut. 99% of players never even got to experience them, and that's kinda sad. But that's essentially what leads us to where we are today. This video will basically be a gateway to a world that at one point only existed on paper. A place that people cherished. This is the story of Super Mario Galaxy's Lost Level, a level that was ultimately scrapped, but not forgotten. When I first played Super Mario Galaxy, I was extremely excited when I first unlocked Bowie Base. I don't know man, there was just something really epic about it. Overcoming fortresses or castles in Mario games always have that feeling, you know? So of course stumbling upon some secret fortress with an epic soundtrack got me pumped. And honestly, it became one of my favorite stages because of that. But as I become more engrossed in Super Mario Galaxy's development as I got older and older, I began to wonder if Bowie Base evolved out of something else. At first, I honestly didn't even put 2 and 2 together. I combed through the files of Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 very often, and during that process, I often encounter a lot of weird things. Objects that I can't explain, weird data associated with things that still haven't been figured out yet, and of course, unused assets. Lots of cool stuff has been documented over the years, but it wasn't until I was coming through a strategy guide of Super Mario Galaxy 1 when I noticed something. Now, this something has certainly been documented online, so it certainly isn't something new. But on one of the last pages in the strategy guide is the sketches of a fortress that never was hashed out for the game. It states the following. Quote, "The fortress was designed at the very beginning of development. This is a memorable piece for all of us, because it really solidified the idea that the next Mario game was going to be Super Mario Galaxy. This fortress was rebuilt repeatedly. On the other side of the planet, you can spot some excavation sites for natural resources." End quote. From the concept art, we can see a giant multi-level fortress climbing out of a round planet. There's water around the base and grassy plains on some sides. It even looks like there might be some snow too. As we rotate around, we can see what appears to be 4 moons, a floating platform, and the rocket ship cluster that looks pretty darn close to Space Junk Galaxy. Of course, we have Megaleg peeking out of the bottom too. So I gotta say, this is a awesome looking level. And it looks absolutely huge in scale, which is why I find it so sad that this level brought about such excitement for people who worked on it and redesigned it, only for the level itself never to see the light of day. It's kind of depressing. After all, this level paved the way for Super Mario Galaxy. But there is hope. And honestly, that's why this video even exists. Many of you might already know this, but parts of the level still exist within the game's code. It's dubbed the Starman Fort. So I decided to partner up with CaptainByte to piece this level back together. All the pieces are floating around the game. So really, what needed to be done to get this level running again was to bring them all together and use a concept art to place the pieces where they belong. And what we're left with is a level that is far more massive than I could have ever imagined. If this would have made it into the game, man, I would have absolutely loved it. This fortress puts Bowie Base to shame, even if perhaps at some point the idea for this level lived on through Bowie Base. We kind of have a lot of stuff to show because this level is a bit of a doozy. So I hope you enjoy this grand tour through Super Mario Galaxy's Lost Level. As always, if you like this kind of content and you want to see more of it, consider subscribing right now if you haven't already. My channel is full of videos just like this one. Okay, where to begin? Why don't we start off with everything floating around the fort? The fort itself is going to take a while to go over, so let's speed through some of the other areas. According to the drawings, this massive fortress had a floating island, 4 moons according to the placements, and a rocket ship drifting in space. The rocket ship asset and the debris as shown in the diagram can be recreated pretty easily based off the arrangement from Space Junk Galaxy. However, the large star clusters were something that we couldn't restore. Not because they don't exist, but because the materials that are paired with them aren't packaged in the game files. So when they load in, they are just transparent. From here, it is easy to spot the 4 different moons in the area, all of which are basically pulled from Deep Dark Galaxy's first mission. Kinda neat that this area had 4 orbital moons, and considering the drawing, their scale is pretty large too. But by far, what I consider to be the neatest planet is actually what is called Planet Disk in the files. It's the disc-shaped planet that has a lot of odd things placed upon it. There are 3-tiered mounds that Mario can jump across, a field of flowers that sway in the wind, giant mushroom fixtures scattered about, and some unique trees that look a bit different than what we normally see in the game. Surprisingly, we can actually climb inside the trees and just chill, as there is a platform inside each tree. Something else I found interesting about this island was that there was a giant puddle over where the trees were at. Kind of like it was raining pretty hard here, and then this particular part of the island flooded. But with that, the outer aspects of this world have been documented. So now it's off to the big boy, Starman Fort. To make sure we don't miss anything, we're going to cover this place floor by floor. It's absolutely enormous. So hopefully this will give you an understanding of how this level could have worked and the route Mario would have taken when embarking on this quest. That's assuming he could have gotten close without getting blasted away. According to the concept art, it looks like there was a large cannon at the bottom of the level. The ground floor was also surrounded by a moat. However, these things don't exist with the current model. The cannon pillar is just a stone pillar, and the flooded area is actually textured as grass. Water could be added back in, but the waterfall also needs to be recreated. As we're walking around on the ground floor, it is very apparent that this fortress has seen better days. In many areas, the fortress appears to have taken damage, but it doesn't look like artillery damage. The way the walls are cracked, and in some instances collapsing from the top, almost make it look like this place is crumbling from the elements, and not necessarily from impact. The fortress is old, and past its prime for sure. The bottom floor doesn't have much to offer, seeing as it is dry and lacks objects it would normally had, so we press on. As Mario makes his way up from the lower level, he will need to climb some triangle-shaped steps to ascend. At this point, Mario needs to wall kick up the wooden columns at the top of the steps to reach the next level. If he doesn't, when he tries walking around, he would have come across a giant waterfall. Given that there is no water here, we can wall kick up these columns as well. Either way, there's a choice to either go down and across the waterfall or go up to the next floor. If the waterfall is chosen, Mario would have had to jump across a platform in front of the waterfall. This would lead to an area down below. It's kind of neat seeing where the waterfall would have flown from too. It's basically a rectangle with a wooden roof that serves no purpose since the water isn't gushing out. Making our way up higher in the fortress, we come across what appears to be a yellow landing pad. There are giant electricity signs marking this part of the fortress. From the concept art, it actually looks like it was a helipad for flying vehicles. However, the markings for both the landing pad and the other associated objects with this area don't exist. There appears to be some kind of black circular object and a radio antenna or weatherhead attached to the side. These things, alongside the wires that run up the fortress, are missing. And since these objects are missing, that also means the top half of the fortress is technically inaccessible. It looks like these wires would have been the only way up, judging by both the in-game model and the concept art. There's a possibility that this yellow landing pad also could have extended upwards too, like a forklift, possibly bringing the player closer to the top floor. But as it stands, there isn't a way to reach the top from the fortress side. We'll talk about another way soon, but for now let's push on. The next area in terms of height is a small overhang fixated with a floating pipe. Again, there is no way to directly get over here. I suppose it may have been possible to get to the bottom section of this area, the part with the brown roof, but again, it wouldn't go anywhere. This area is only halfway up in terms of distance to the next area too, as this fortress is massive. There is a pipe above us that leads to the top floor before the roof though, but there's no way to reach it. In addition, the pipes are hard baked into the model, and not like the pipes that would be encountered anywhere else in the game. In its current state, they behave more like the sewers in Super Mario Sunshine. At this point, we're finally at the top of the fortress though. This area has tons of cannons in the concept art, but all the cannons are shut in game. This area would normally come accompanied by cranes and other heavy machinery to lift things. There are some long crane appendages shooting out from the various sides, alongside a wheel that would have housed the cable system for the crane. This makes sense since Starman Fort doubled as a mining facility too. I mean, the whole thing looks like a Rust Belt era shipping and loading factory. It gives off strong Shime Tower energy too, based on how it is configured, which was that crazy looking coal mining place in Japan. This floor features more damage to the wall of the fortress too. But this got me thinking, I wonder if this damage is possibly from the mishandled shipments that bumped into the walls. It makes you wonder. And with this, we finally reached the top. If Mario begins to climb onto the roof, he can attempt to make his way to the very tip top of Starman Fort, which has a pleasant surprise waiting for him at the summit. A green pipe. But where does it lead? Well, if Mario peers down it, it appears he's in for a hell of a journey. This pipe extends all the way to the other side of the planet. It's by far the longest pipe I've ever seen. I think it's just the scope of it that throws me off, as it seems so strange. This pipe just acts as a huge fall though. Because the other side of the planet isn't configured, we basically die at some point. However, originally this pipe did spit you out on the mining operations side of the planet. This is where the player would have fought Boss Crab, which was essentially the beta form of Megaleg. The bottom side of the planet was extremely dark and only lit up by floodlights. Perhaps, upon defeat of Boss Crab, the pipe would have spawned and took Mario to the peak of the fortress where the star would be waiting for him. Given the scale of this level, I imagine it would have had plenty of stars too. But with that brings the Starman Fort to a close. I really would love to know what this place looked like on the inside though, given how many windows are present. Besides this model, another version of this place does exist in the files called Neo Starman Fort. It honestly looks a lot like the test rooms you encounter in other games. It sports that grid-like texture system that makes it end up looking like Green Hill Zone. Given the nature of it, it also makes me feel like it's almost like the Bob-omb Battlefield version of Starman Fort, as it's just rocky walls and grass all the way up. And that's the legacy of Starman Fort, a level left behind by developers which to me is kind of sad, given that they mentioned that it excited them so much. That reason alone was what made me think showcasing the level in its entirety would really be a neat tribute, because now tons of players can experience the level vicariously through this documentary. But what was your thoughts on this lost level? Any areas catch your eye? Let me know. And of course, none of this would have been possible without the help of CaptainByte. Having him aid me in assembling this world really made the process super smooth for documenting it in all its glory. So I can't thank him enough for his assistance. If you haven't checked out his work, I highly recommend doing so. You can find links to his profiles in the description below. And with that, perhaps you'll enjoy one of these videos on screen now. Go ahead and give one a click. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.